find myself feeling very conflicted a lot of the time. I think like any other human being, I feel a lot of different things about myself, about the world at all certain points of the day, and what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, whether it's from friends or the news or from what I'm reading or watching. Whether I like it or not, my identity shifts with that. I find that definitely comes out in the imagery with certain creatures that I make as well, whether I feel like making something that looks like it's sickly or in pain, or if there is something like a mother creature that's growing something, or that's nursing like little baby creatures and things, is a more positive state, I guess, where I feel like I'm growing in some sort of way. So a lot of people, when they look at my stuff, sometimes they can feel like love, they can feel excited, they can feel grossed out, or kind of like weirded out by it. And I think those are all very valid feelings, and I think all of them are great to me. Something that I have pushed to the back for a long time and really fought was my femininity, however you'd like want to describe that. I had a lot of trouble identifying with femininity, not because I don't have femininity, but because of a lot of the surface level ideas of what quote unquote being a woman is, and what being a woman means. And that I just always, when I heard the word femininity, I related that to like the very commercialized idea of being a woman, or the very like rule and expectation based idea of what being a woman is. So I was like, fuck that. I don't want anything to do with that. I'm not feminine because I don't want to be that idea of what being a woman was. And so I really fought that for a long time, and I was actually very upset with being born how I was. I started coming into accepting it more, honestly, the more willing I was to let myself feel things with my art, and the more that I talked to other women and saw how they experienced femininity. It wasn't traditional, and it wasn't, this clean, perfect, elegant, beautiful thing all the time. It was raw and feeling, and there was a certain level of connection between people with feminine energies, and this like camaraderie that I really connected to. And really observing animals, I think, and helped also with a lot of that, seeing how motherly animals navigate the world and treat their young. I think a lot of where my spiritual state is at is swinging between feeling pain and then going back to growing from that.
I like to do more cartoon stuff because when I was in like third or fourth grade, this one kid like was really good at drawing cartoons, and he like drew a cartoon on the whiteboard, and I was like, that's fucking cool. But yeah, I even remember as a kid like watching like regular TV. I thought was always boring compared to cartoons. I was a big Cartoon Network girl for sure. Like, because in that world you can be so much more like imaginative, and like special effects suck. I think like if you make something look too real, I get bored. But like if you make something like if you have to get like crafty and like with the way that you portray this story with the effects and making it more of like an artistic thing, it's like so much more interesting to me. I hope that I can pass on a sense of comfort in my work. With paintings and illustrations, I like to use a lot of colors, and like we were talking about, do more of a cartoonish style because it makes me feel like a kid again. Oh, I was always kind of the person to like mediate things growing up with people in my life, family and friends. So I loved offering advice and help. So like I hope that my art can do that in like an imaginative way through music in my paintings help in like a way that like it makes you feel good if you're having a bad day, or like it makes you feel understood in a way that like maybe you're too scared to admit that you have these feelings about this kind of thing, and like you can be like, oh, cool, you know.
It's kind of like guiding.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, for sure.
Like a friendly face, or like almost kind of like a hand hold.
Absolutely, definitely want people to feel like I'm in a very, this is gonna sound cheesy, but like a hug, like it's cool, you're cool, you know, because I have a lot of anxiety, and you know, I feel like a lot of people do, so it's nice to, you know, kind of communicate through art, like comfortability, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, like we're all in this together, almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great.
Cool. That's what I got for the first one.
Nice. Those are all really, really great answers.
Cool.
Do you want to?
Yes, please.
Awesome.
Thanks. This kind of feels like Midnight Gospel-y.
Yeah.
I love that show.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like the podcast-esque feeling, but I like when people do more with it than just like a podcast.
Yeah.
Or just like conversations between people. It's just such a great thing to listen to, and I think can be more than just a podcast, you know?
Yeah. I love how that's like put into like an episode, and like he lives in his little trailer, and then he goes into like this world and interviews people from like different planets and stuff.
Yeah, it's a really
cool.
crazy world building, like, and just
Yeah.
like just such a great concept. You could add anything to it, and
It's super
just
creative. Like, I'd have never thought of a show like that. Excuse me. It smells like hot dogs. Costco hot dogs are fucking huge. Thank you.
Anytime. Okay. Question number 2. Where do you sense your art or your creativity or whatever you want to call it? You're forced to make things. Where do you sense that coming from inside you?
So I feel like I pull from these two kind of extremes in me that are constantly at play. I was a really quiet kid growing up, but on the inside and like around my family, I was really loud, a lot to handle. My parents didn't know how to handle me, but then I'd go to school and I'd be really shy because I just naturally like around people I don't know, you know. So I kind of feel like I pull from those two kind of battles in me of being like extroverted but also introverted. I feel most comfortable expressing myself in art because I feel mostly awkward in normal spaces. People tell me I'm actually a very like personable person, and like I'm good at socializing, and I'm like, I mean, like I feel like I can be, but for me, I have art as the space to just splatter how I like truly feel. And that's not to say that I like hate people or anything. I just can be bad with words in normal interactions and always end up like overthinking things I say. And so I feel like art helps me express things in a private place where I don't feel rushed to have to say like the right thing, like I feel pressured to in day-to-day life. So like for me, it's like a I pull from like a place of like taking shelter and refugee from the stuff I go through mentally. So it's also pulling from kind of, I guess, like my PTSD and anxiety and my like feeling of wanting to be this extroverted person that I've kind of always wanted to be, that I can be in private, but I don't know how to communicate all the time. You know. Yeah.
A lot of things you just said are, I feel like almost the exact same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, I can't. Oh, dude, I'll have like panic attacks in the grocery store. And like, I keep calm on the surface. Like, people are like, what do you mean? Like, you have anxiety? Like, what do you mean? It's like, I just deeply root that shit far down. But yeah, I guess like if I didn't have art, maybe I would be different. But I feel more understood in that kind of world. You know what I mean?
Like, understood through artwork?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I'm trying to elaborate on that more. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, we were talking about this at the party the other day, how, like, there's, like, I feel like everybody feels like they have to, you watch TV shows growing up, and these people in these TV shows and sitcoms are, like, they've got all their friends, and they go do all of these things, and they're good at carrying themselves in the world, and we're like fed that to replicate that mostly, but it's like actually such an awkward and weird and hard thing to do that I feel like when I'm talking to somebody that I don't know very well, like, I kind of hate the small talk, and I hate the like, oh, I don't really care that we're like talking about this, but like with art I can kind of express like how I feel, and like I'm going off trance. I have to regroup myself. I'm sorry, but like it's not that like I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, oh fuck you, I don't care what you're talking about, but I feel like more so I want to communicate with them in a different way that's not so stale, because like, again, I'm like an emotional person. Like, if you get to know me, I will overshare all the time. I'm dramatic and whatever, but I can kind of like, if it's like your birthday coming up, like I'll paint you a picture of that like kind of replicates how I feel about our relationship, and that helps me like better communicate to you like how much I love and care about you than I think I would if we were just like having a conversation, so to me it's like a form of communication that is safer. So I guess, yeah, I pull from communicating too with people I love, and just like the world in general, and communicating my own like thoughts on stuff. So, yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Oh, I love the idea of just like being able to talk better through a picture, and then describe something more specific to someone than just like the typical buzzwords that you've got when you meet someone for the first time. It's like, right. I'm not feeling that way, when I'm saying those things. Like, I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling like I'm taking in their whatever, I'm like listening to what they're saying, I'm like also distracted by my day in general.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't feel like this cheery person that say, "Oh, how are you doing?" "I'm doing fine." "What classes are you taking?"
Yeah.
You know, like, that's it, you're right. It does feel like a waste of time, and it's just like
Right.
the idea of just giving someone a painting of your first impression of them feels like a really fun prompt.
Yeah.
Because it's more
right.
than just that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not to say like conversations are meaningless, but like I think it's just more so like a comfortable place to like express how you feel, you know? Because, yeah.
There's no expectations.
Exactly, yeah. And it's private, and you don't even have to show people if you don't want to, you know? You could just splatter it out for you to look at and come back to and be like, oh, I remember how the feelings that led me to make this, and now I'm here, and this is like a beautiful thing that I can look back on and, you know, be proud of myself for either moving forward or look back in nostalgia. So, yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Hmm.
Okay, we're gonna go to question 3.
Oh, this one goes off a little bit.
Awesome. It's the one that it could go off into.
Okay.
Okay. What imagery would best describe your current spiritual state?
So, I know I talk about colors a lot, but it really is colors for me. I'm always pulling, I think, from a different color that represents what I'm going through, like emotionally. I noticed that when I was like really into pink for a while, I was expressing and learning how to be like more comfortable in my femininity, like my feminine side. I don't know, is femininity a word? That sounds like weird to say, but anyways. And then when I was into dark blue for a while, I was like in a state of like an ego death and like a lot of isolation and reflection. I was really into purple and drawn to purple when I was falling in love with my boyfriend. Like the passion in that and the comfort in that and like what it was like. Yeah, like what it was like to be in a safe and happy relationship. Because it was like that color was like comfortable to me to just kind of fall into purple, you know, like it was like, yeah. My mom keeps calling me. I'm sorry. Where am I? Right now, I'm really drawn to a kind of like burnt orange. And I feel like that represents a kind of like we're getting to the light at the end of the tunnel feeling. Like the orange sunset is like at the very end of this tunnel because I've been doing EMDR therapy for 1.5 years now, which has been really hard, but also very life-changing. And I feel a lot of closure on a lot of things in my life right now. So I'm really drawn to the burnt orange because it makes me feel like I'm finally coming out of this, not darkness, because were a lot of colors involved along the way, but like this just different feeling, you know? So, I hear colors in music too. So that's also another thing that I'm constantly always thinking about when I'm like writing riffs and stuff. For me, it's just all changing colors. I used to like only wear dark clothes, and I realized once I started to wear more colorful things, it reflected like a happier, more optimistic personality in me. I used to drink a lot from like a young age to cope with some difficulties I was going through, which dragged on into my early 20s, and I hated that I was doing that and doing that for a long time because I dulled a lot of parts of myself that I wish that I didn't at that time, but you know, it's all a lesson. I was mad about that for a while. I walked around with a lot of like internal embarrassment of my own actions when I was drinking heavily, and like walking around with that makes you just very closed off to those colors, I feel like. So, like, now I have my drinking under control and, like, feel a lot lighter walking around in life, which is cool. And I realized and noticed this change once I, like, cut back on it. Like, I went sober for, like, a solid 3 months. And then I would, like, have, like, a beer once a month and kind of test out those waters. And now I feel like I'm finally at a place where I can, like, you know, I can, have beer every once in a while, and I'm not, like, trying to dull myself anymore. But, yeah, so I just, like, recentered and opened my heart to new avenues that I was too scared of exploring, like joining a band, getting into skateboarding, doing more paintings, like, actually doing more paintings. Once I went sober those 3 months, I, like, was painting constantly. It was kind of like a buildup of, like, just, like, here, like, this has been sitting in you for a while and you need to get it out now. And I could finally, see the colors. And that was beautiful to go through, and just, like, kind of just, like, a lot of reassurance in my own. Like, I was, like, reassuring myself a lot in that, because I never thought I would be a good painter. I always thought it was, like, something that was, like, too hard to learn. But once I was kind of forced to, like, like, I wasn't drinking anymore, like, what am I gonna do with my time? Which is awesome, because I would much rather be painting and singing and writing music and doing that. Like, I remember when I was drinking all the time, like, I'd be out with my friends and I'd be like, man, I just wish I was kind of at home, like, just, like, doing something else. And I don't think I ever had the courage to, like, stop drinking before that point in my life, because I didn't think I'd be good at those things. But that was stupid. So I'm really grateful that I learned that lesson. And that's not to down people who drink or anything. Like, everyone's different. But for me personally, I think I was, it was more so I was afraid of stepping into the things that I wanted to do. So I tried to be this other person that I wasn't, and it didn't work for a very long time. So that kind of went off on a rant. So I'm sorry, because
it's important. If
yeah,
it's important to you, it's important to me.
Cool. Yeah, like, I used to be scared people, like, it's, like, goes back to the, like, quiet thing. I was a really quiet kid growing up, and I wanted to be this extroverted person. So I was like, okay, what makes you comfortable around people? Drinking alcohol. So I would go really kind of crazy into that, and went too far in that for a long time. And it got to a point where I didn't recognize myself, because you're not feeding your soul in the way that you are when you are creating art. Like, when you're drinking, you're taking away from your soul, I think, or you're dulling your soul. And I think it's very important to have I'm glad I had the courage to see if I could fucking do it. And even if I can't, like, technically do it, I'm still just doing it rather than drinking, and it's made for a lot happier life. So, yeah.
That's really cool.
Cool.
Just, like, yeah, having the courage to do that.
Yeah.
Having the courage to be like, maybe I don't need to be like these people.
It was weird for a while, especially because I was really scared that I was going to be lonely, like a loner. That was one of the big things. I was like, man, I'm not going to have any friends anymore. But honestly, all it did was attract the right kind of friends into my life. Like, I had the wrong people around me for a long time, and then, I had a period of loneliness for sure. But then all of a sudden, like, I, like, realized shortly after that, I, like, looked around me. I was like, wow, I have a lot of good friends now. that I wouldn't have the time to spend with now if I didn't have that courage to listen to my gut and be like, you know what, you're not happy. You're not doing what you actually want to do in life. Like, stop doing this and start doing the things you've always wanted to do. Like, yeah, like with painting, skateboarding, music, all, like, those are like the holy three for me that keep me like just really happy. So I'm glad I have those now. I'd much rather be doing that than drinking. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I kind of relate to that. Like,
Yeah.
like I kind of felt the same, just wanting to have friends and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you want friends that bad, the first people you find are gonna pick them,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes it so that, you know, when you finally do meet those right people, you just miss them, you know. So it's like,
Yeah.
being discriminating about your friends is like important, and understanding like what you do when you're around them, you know, because sometimes it
Yeah.
will just be like friends because, you know, all you do is drink together,
Yep.
or all you do is just sit
Exactly.
and film together, you know.
Yeah, like, oh my God, like, you don't have to put this in there because you'll probably get in trouble, but like, I've done a lot of drugs and at a young age, and like what the fuck? Like, you know, and that was just the people I was surrounded around. I was fucking melting my brain. Like, I was addicted to Molly when I was a junior in high school. I was doing acid. I've done acid like about 30 times in my life now, and I'm only 25. And that all happened like from the age of 16 to fucking 20. Like, that's not cool. And then I had like a ketamine phase, I had a coke phase, I had a whippets phase, which was like fucking dumb, but also just really funny to look back on. But yeah, I think I also like in my own family, like I love my family to death, but the environment I grew up in was very sports dominated. Like, my dad played football. Both my brothers played football and baseball growing up. My sister was basketball. Like, everybody had their sport. And I tried hockey, I tried swimming, I tried basketball, I tried soccer. I actually did like soccer. Soccer was fun. But like, I tried all these sports and like just failed miserably at all of them. And so I always had art. And I was always like kind of the black sheep of my family in that way, that like I would kind of never be home. Because I just like felt like I wasn't seen because I wasn't an athlete. And it was like, oh, yeah, good for you, Leah. Like, you go do your dance recital. And, like, they threw me in dance. And I was like, okay, cool. All this did was give me fucked up knees. But, you know, so I didn't feel seen for a while at home. So then, like, at school, I wasn't seen either. So it was like, okay, what element here can I, like, change? So it was the drinking and the socializing. So then I think I fell even harder into that because of that. And once I got to be like an adult, I was like, okay, there's no kids to fit in with anymore. My family lives out of state. It's just me. So like, I had to kind of like really look at myself and be like, have you been wanting to do this? Do you really want to do this? You know? And that was a big fat no. And I'm really glad I came to that conclusion. And like, I went to Catholic school too, so like I was just constantly wanting to rebel in the stupidest ways, like like wearing neon socks. Like, I was like, yeah, because it's out of uniform, and like I get yelled at, and I'd like it. Like, I'd be like, yeah, like I loved that conflict, and I think it was this like, I don't know. I guess maybe it goes back to not feeling comfortable in that space, but also just like not feeling like the space was inclusive enough for me, so I wanted to rebel against it even more, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
It's like, sorry, were you saying something?
No, you're good. I was reading some answers and I was like, I don't want to say that now.
Okay. But I was just gonna say, it's like, sometimes I feel like art is there to like save people's lives. Like it
3,000,000%.
comes down and sort of weaves its way into people's lives. You know, when they're dissatisfied or when they're fed up of the bullshit around
Yep.
them, or they're not being heard. And it's like art is kind of like rebellion in that way.
Yeah, it's like a healthy rebellion. For sure, yeah. Because looking back on like my life, it's like I've always kind of always wanted to be the rebel, annoyingly. But yeah, that comes from a place of just not feeling like you fit in. But then like art is that safe space. Like I said earlier, like, sorry, I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot, but again, it's that safe space where you can rebel in like a way that you're not drinking copious amounts of alcohol and hurting your liver and making dumb decisions that you hate so much. Like I remember I walked around with so much embarrassment, and that was like the hardest thing I think for me to just like exist with, because like I hated it. Like as I was doing it, I really did was not happy, and like I tell myself I was happy because I would distract it with like the chaos of it, and the chaos felt great, the chaos felt good. But like now I get that feeling now from working on a painting or finally getting lyrics for a song that I'm really excited about. You get that similar chaos feeling inside of you that kind of lights up and makes you like excited, but it's so much better. Yeah.
It's like the joy of like feeling that feeling, but also like actually expressing it at the same time.
Right, because you're pretty silenced if you're just like dulling yourself in substances.
You're burying it down almost.
Burying it down so far, yeah, which is so unfair to yourself. You know? And like I think too, a lot of that comes from like, the wounded child in you, and like making sure that like, she's still heard as an adult, because if she's not heard and you don't care for your inner child as an adult, you're going to keep repeating those toxic, habits that just keep hurting you because you're not listening and you're not trying to heal those parts that are still, like the emotions from your hurt child still are there and like manifest in different ways as an adult,
Dude, you have done a lot of therapy. This is awesome. I feel like
Can you hear it?
I'm starting to understand myself more just talking to you.
Cool. Yeah, I've been in therapy for a long time, dude, and like I don't think I'm ever gonna, like, I think I'm gonna be in it for the next 5 years, because why the fuck not? Like I get it free for work, and like it just keeps helping you like dissect things in your life to
Yeah. And it's not like
handle
you
them well.
have to do it for the rest of your life.
No.
It's just
It's a tool. It's a toolbox. And it's like you can vent to your friends all you want, but like at some point you start to feel like a burden. And you never want to feel like a burden to your friends. And like they also can't offer you the same advice that a therapist could. So it's a really essential toolbox, I think, that everybody should have and not be ashamed to use. Even if you just got a little bit of anxiety, like go to therapy. It's great. It'll be awesome. You don't have to be super fucked up to go to therapy. Anybody can do it.
Honestly, I feel like that's kind of when people get that bad is because they don't want to go to therapy.
Right.
Or I don't know. It's all just like people not wanting to address problems.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, everyone's different, but
yeah.
it helps.
And we're all learning. Like nobody's perfect. No one's gonna be perfect. You can be in therapy all your life and still do shitty things, but
Right.
as long as you admit that the things you did were shitty, and then try to understand where inside of you that pull to do that shitty thing came from, and then you work on that, then you won't do it anymore. Because I feel like, I don't know, for me, like when I'm like irritated or like in a bad mood, it's like I'm not really like mad at the surface level thing that is like irritating me. It's something else that has like triggered something else inside of me that is a past issue that I didn't ever resolve, Yeah.
That's always like, yeah, 100%. Shit.
Yeah, I've done a lot of therapy, man.
Yes. It's good though. It's like
Yeah.
it's like you have the words to like certain things that I've started to think about, but just
Yeah.
haven't really talked to anyone about.
Yeah, just you can always talk to me. I love talking about this stuff because I'm constantly dealing with my emotions. Even if I seem cool on the outside, like there's something like bodily that is I'm always working through, So, yeah, you can always talk to me about stuff. For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
And it's like, yeah, me too. Like, we're all like, you could say that, like, you're fine, but, like, and everyone says, I'm fine. But,
Yeah.
like, everyone's going through something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's ever 100% fine. Like, there's shit that happens in your day every day that irritates the hell out of you, like in traffic or like, I can't really think of anything specific right now, but yeah, there's always something, but that's okay.
Yeah, and it's like,
okay.
you don't have to deny it.
Yeah, you don't have to deny it. Like, the more you kind of put on and cover up, like, oh, I'm fine. I don't
My
need
life is, like, perfect, and it's the way it should be.
I'm like, no, it's not. Yeah, it can be like, you can build a happy and sustainable life around you, but there's always going to be, like, happiness is not, I had this realization when I was, like, 20, 21, because I was, like, a depressed kid and all that, and, like, I was like, man, like, when am I going to be happy? Like, when am I going to finally reach that happiness? And that was when I was first starting to get into Buddhism. And, like, I was like, I'm going to go to India and I'm going to be a yoga teacher. And then I'll be happy. And then I'll finally have this thing in front of me that'll be mine and it'll be happiness. And it's like, it doesn't ever work like that. Happiness is something that comes and it goes, just like any other emotion. And, like, it took me a really long time to realize that, like, yeah, you're going to be really happy sometimes and you're going to be really sad sometimes. But that doesn't mean that you, like, aren't going to be, like, that just makes you human, So there's nothing wrong with not having that. Like, it's not a goal. Happiness is not the goal. It is something you work towards, like, creating in your life, like, giving and receiving in your life, but definitely not this concrete thing that you are working to get to, because then that puts too much pressure on yourself. Like, if you're having a bad day, you're having a fucking bad day. Like, go like fucking break a plate in your backyard or something, and that feels good, like, we're human and, like, the emotions come strongly, but they're also fleeting. So yeah, just working through that was a really big lesson for me when I first discovered Buddhism too, which is also another, like, artistic, like, inspiration for me too. I pull from a lot of that because growing up Catholic, there's a lot of guilt and there's a lot of, holding on to the moment, like don't sin, listen to the commandments, confess your sins, and if you don't do that, there's heaven and there's hell. There's these two places, and one is doomed with guilt and one is doomed with praise. And Buddhism I love because it's all about letting go of attachments and letting go of those feelings. Like, you can, like, again, like, you can sin, But do you have to beg for forgiveness? I don't know. I don't think so. Like, I think that I'm losing my train of thought, but like, oh yeah, Buddhism, like, there's no guilt in it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Which for me is really freeing. And that, like, because the guilt comes with pressure, I think. And if you translate pressure into art, it's not going to work. So, like, learning to let go and be in the moment and, like, not hold on to past things. Like, past things don't serve you. Thinking about the future doesn't serve you. Being in the moment right now helps kind of channel through easier to create art. If that makes sense. Yeah.
I like what you said about like guilt is like pressure or like and it's like when you're a Buddhist, it's like if you feel bad about something you did, it's like you can do something about it, but it's like you have the choice to, and to make the right choice based on who you are, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say when I was like, you don't have to beg for forgiveness, but then my thought process went off. But yeah, like the whole like, oh, this Father, Heavenly Father, like forgive me for my sins, please, so I don't go to hell. Like you should, I don't know.
It puts the power outside yourself.
Exactly, yeah. You're not working for it for yourself, I feel like. You're working for it for that justification of being free of sin. Which is, like, I don't know.
Which is something that, the consequences of life, literally beyond this life.
Right.
Like, not even beyond this moment, but literally beyond this entire lifetime. Which is like, what are we supposed to do this whole time? It's a whole timeline of opportunities to sin, dude. That's what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Again, it's like all human emotion. Like you're mad some days, you're fucking pissed off, and that's okay to admit. As long as you're not like going out of your way to hurt people. Like you can just, be mad. It's okay.
And like you said, it's like, I feel like having that freedom, it's like you really get to get the emotion out. And then you really can move on. Like, yeah.
100%, yeah. Oh, yeah, like, that's a big writing thing for me. Like, when I write, I kind of pull from my, like, Catholic rebellion. I wrote this song a while ago that was called Death by Catholics. And it was about, like, growing up in a Catholic school and, like, just kind of, like, the social order of that. Like, I have to think about what I'm trying to say here. Death by Catholics in a way that, like, I'm not trying to kill Catholics. Like, don't get that. We're not trying to have a genocide here. But, like, I feel like Catholics at times can just, like, cause death to themselves in that way. Like, let me see if I can find the lyrics so I can, like, better understand what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's cool. It's cool that you're like, I got things to look at really quick.
Yeah. Notes. Yeah, so the lyrics go, like, who's up there, if I may ask? I think that I ought to toast them in glass. I wore the gown, like, gown as in, like, First Communion. But my First Communion priest ended up raping a little boy. So, yeah, that's that for context. I wore the gown and I ate the bread, prayed with the Bible, but still felt unsaid. I've got these wires that are loose in my head. It's all the same question of where do we end? And then it goes, Jesus wept for you, he said, but I wept for my mother instead. There's a time and a place for your tears. It takes a while to find comfort in years, to be wise and old with a beard. If we make it, I'll sure want to hear. If you find God, I'll sure want to hear. I wore the uniform and did what I wasn't told, walking through each hallway surrounded by ghosts. Each preacher and teacher had a right to bring ruin and cast socialites. So, like, that lyric is, like, kind of like, I watch these, like, teachers who are, like, religious teachers who are supposed to be, like, these religious people, you know, people of God. Like, just uplift these, like, popular, horrible kids that were just, like, very cliquey and very mean, and they just, like, uplifted them and gave them, like, a platform really for them to execute that kind of social order. And it's all from, like, families they came from, and, like, you know, who pays the most to the school, and, like, who's deemed, like, the most, you know, Catholic and good. And it's like, yeah, that, like, that really stuck with me growing up, because if, you know, like, I felt outcasted by it. I was bullied in grade school, which is a Catholic school. St. Joe's, awful school. I'm sorry, but really awful. Yeah. And then the last line goes, to play the game of this atmosphere, death by Catholics, I'll scream it from here. Because I'm watching them just, like, fucking ruin this. Like, ruin it all, you know? And, so yeah, when I write most of the time, I'm kind of, like, pulling from that emotion of, like, how self-righteous, you know? Like, we don't need to be this self-righteous, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Thank you for walking us through that. That's awesome.
Cool. I don't know if that was too much, so I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, that's one I have on my SoundCloud. But I haven't really done anything with it. It's just kind of there for me, you know. And whoever.
Yeah, I just remember listening to one of your songs on SoundCloud once. It was one with the lighter flicking.
Jump Train. I love that song.
Amazing.
Cool. I'm glad you remember that, dude.
That
Thank
was a long
you.
time ago. I was a senior in high school.
Oh, cool. That's fucking sick, dude. Yeah, I love that song. I want to develop. See, that's why, like, if, off the record, if Scatter ends, like, I gotta be okay. You know, I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah, dude.
Dudes. Men. God, how do they have to
Just,
ruin everything? They ruin everything, Grace.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was off the record.
Off the record.
Yeah, I hope that answered that question. That went off a little bit.
Dude, you answered, like, a lot of my questions.
Cool.
It's
Cool.
I have to keep myself from saying sound sometimes in public, because people usually don't really know what I'm saying.
The funniest thing
But
is when...
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say that, but when I get back here, it's like I can say all I want.
You can say it 50 times in a minute if you want to. Sound.
Okay, number 4. I feel like
Okay.
this was the one I wrote specifically because I thought you would have fun answering this one.
Aw, cool.
Okay, number 4. what women have inspired you creatively and or spiritually?
So I've got four. Four women have inspired me spiritually and creatively. And the first one is my cat, Lily, because, I can't ever read her mind or talk to her, but her presence is like the most uplifting thing ever. Like she's not, she's not a cuddly cat, but just her being next to you is the most calming and like reassuring thing ever. And I think that she's really wise. I think she's a very wise woman, and she's beautiful, and her colors inspire me. So Lily's number one for sure. Always. My grandma, for sure. My grandma is a beautiful Lebanese woman, and she's gone through a lot in her life because of that. She was, bullied for her skin color growing up. There was one time these like Irish girls wrote a note for St. Patrick's Day and put it in her mailbox, and it said, "Happy Irish Day," or "Happy St. Patrick's Day. Everybody's Irish today except for you. You're just an N-word." And like stuff like that happened to her growing up, and like I just can't believe that. So I just think she's super strong and inspiring for, becoming the woman she is despite that. I mean, she raised 6 kids in a 4-bedroom house on Juliet, which they still live in, which is pretty awesome. And now she has 20 plus grandchildren and great grandchildren now. And she just keeps going. Like she has me over for dinner every week, and she cooks me dinner. And not only does she cook me dinner, but she always has stuff for me. Like she will make sure I leave with a bag of like various different foods, or like here's a candle, or here's this makeup I found, or here's all this random stuff. And she always makes sure that like I'm taken care of, and I just really appreciate that. She's really just funny. She's so funny and sassy. Like, she's kind of stuck in her ways. Like, she's 50. She's from the 50s, like, grew up around that time. And, again, like, went through a lot. So, I mean, like, her saltiness is very justified. But to me, it translates just in a funny way. She's very giving, caring, has a killer green thumb. She has the most beautiful garden ever. It amazes me every single year. So yeah, my grandma for sure, and then my godmother Jean, who's always been there for me. When I was like a stupid teenager and I would be fighting with my parents, like I would sneak out and be in arguments with my parents, and Jeannie was always the person I called, and she was always the person to tell me to go home, and I'd actually listen. Like, I wouldn't listen to my mom or my dad. But if Jane was like, just go home, I'd be like, okay, all right. I can tell her anything, which I really appreciate. She's like super loud, which is amazing. You can hear Jeannie from across a football field. She's that loud. And like, she's just supportive as hell. Like, you can literally tell her, like, I killed someone. And she'd be like, all right, where are we going to hide the body? Like, what are we doing? Like, she's just that kind of woman. And she's also been through a lot in her life. Like, she had to move back in with her parents after some hardships in her life. And she has a severely autistic son, Justin, who I'm also close with. But she's a single mother with 2 kids, and she takes care of my grandparents now. Like, she's just freaking awesome, and she's a lot of fun. Like, she can freaking party. And any wedding we go to, she's like tearing it up on the dance floor. She like goes and sits on Cole's lap, and like she'll kiss him on the cheek, and she'll smack him on the butt, and it's just like, I freaking love just how electric she is, you know. Yeah, so for sure her. And I remember like there'd be times too where she'd be like, don't be so hard on Leah, to my parents. And as a kid, that went a long way, you know. Having somebody in my corner, like she's always been in my corner. So I love her to death. She's got some fucking crazy stories to tell too. So, yeah. And she's got good music taste. She showed me like the song Colors by the Black Pumas is one of her favorite songs. And I think that's really cool. Yeah, and she has that cabin that we all go to, so she hosts us all, and it's always so fun, and she's just great. And then my mom also has inspired me because she was a graphic designer growing up, and that's kind of how I first started getting into art when I was young, by watching her do illustrations on her computer. I would sneak on and use her Adobe Illustrator, just drawing like squiggles and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I like how I feel when I do this. She designed greeting cards and like had her own store for a while, which I thought was pretty badass. That's pretty like girl boss of her, as people say. There were a lot of times when I was younger and my dad was away playing football, doing his thing, and my mom was at home with 3, then 4 very small children, and she took care of us and traveled with us and to go see him and stuff, and she just kept us together. She's a dork in the best way too. Like, she's always taking out her guitar at the cabin, and like it's this janky guitar that I stole from my high school from like the 70s. It's like out of tune. Like, it sounds really bad, but she like will strum like the very basic chords, and she'll sing super loud Country Roads or the Edmunds Fitzgerald, and she knows all that by heart. Like, she'll just like sing it very off tune. So awesome. And like, she lives part-time in Florida and then part-time in an RV up north, which I think is pretty cool. Like, she followed her dream to go live by the ocean, and then she lives part-time in an RV and has like this massive, beautiful garden. She's a hippie and she doesn't even know it, which is cute. And yeah, all 3 of them have a green thumb too, which is a skill that I think is really nurturing and something that I want to get better at myself. So, yeah, those 4 women. We've got Lily, my grandma, Jeannie, and my mom. Kind of make this ultimate circle of support in my life.
I thought you might have put in PJ Harvey.
Oh, yeah.
But I knew you were gonna do Lily.
Yeah. No, I didn't even think about that. Like, musically, I just went right to family.
Mm-hmm.
But PJ Harvey is awesome, and she does inspire me a lot with her, like, mostly with her voice. Like, her voice can go really low and really high, and that's something I want to be good at in singing too. And yeah, she's my favorite female musician. So her too. Yeah, we'll throw her in there. Yeah.
Okay, we only have one more. So
Okay, cool.
The very last
question.
If you were to meet the embodiment of the divine feminine, how would she present herself?
Okay, so if I were to meet the embodiment of the divine feminine, she would present herself to me just simply as the earth and all natural things in it. She's a circle, which makes sense because she holds life and time. So it goes onwards, like in that circle motion, if that makes sense. I feel like the divine feminine is also mixed with masculine and creates this kind of earthly phenomenon, like grass, rocks, the extremes of like nature, the extremes of the oceans, the birds, the bees, the trees, and the weather and the wind. Like I feel a strong connection to nature and feel my most divine feminine when I'm just sitting in the sun watching the world around me. The similarities in nature to the human body are pretty cool to point out, like how brain waves connecting also look like lightning forming in a cloud. Skin colors can be found in shades of dirt and sand. The female form can be found, for me, like in mist and smoke, like rising from a fire. I've noticed that before, and like that has no concrete consistent figure, so to me that represents and shows all shapes and sizes of women. So I guess the divine feminine is a lot of different things for me, but is also just simply the circled earth, like picturing like the typical picture of earth floating in space with like light around it. She's the divine feminine for me, which I feel like is also representative of women and how strong we can feel things, but at the same time keep everything together. Like, natural disasters will come, but the earth will still be together. I feel that so strongly that, like, that's how I work in my head. Like, there's a fucking tsunami, but then all of a sudden I'm good and we're fine. Yeah, and like the way that like women can keep families together and hold all these different roles for people. I think that's representative of the varieties of just everything in earth and in nature. So, yeah. That makes sense.
Awesome.
Cool.
I like yeah.
Cool.
I like just like the illustration of like the cycle of when you were talking about time. Like I almost want you to like read that sentence again.
Yeah, what one?
Like the one where you're talking about when you mentioned time, just kind of near the beginning almost.
Like she's our senses circle. Oh yeah. She's a circle, which makes sense because she holds life and time. So it goes onward in the circle motion. Yeah. Yeah, I love Earth. She's great. She's a she in my brain, you know?
Yeah.
But she's also, like, tough. That's why, like, the masculine, I think, comes in to the divine feminine, is because, like, I mean, not to say that feminine isn't tough, or, like, there's, like, certain things that go with each word, but I guess just, like, I also don't always feel feminine. Like, sometimes I feel really masculine, and that doesn't mean that I'm not feminine, you know? If anything, I think it, like, amplifies my femininity more because you accept that, you know? Because I don't think femininity is, like, ooh, I'm girly, I'm fragile, look at me, you know? And that's not to stereotype it, but, like, there's tough parts to the defined feminine, and I think that is represented in what I would feel like would look like if to represent it would be like earth and the weather. And like, I love rocks. Big rock girl. And I love this sturdy, like, you know, like rocks are solid, they're sturdy, but they can also break, and they're also sandy. There's also a lot of colors, and there's a lot of variety to them. And I think that's beautiful. And again, representative of, like, the variety that women hold. You know, women are awesome. We can do a lot of things. We can, like, have a baby if we want to, but we can also not, and, like, go be pirates. You know, like, there's range to us.
The
and
two things women do.
Yeah, be pirates and have babies. But yeah.
I feel like we as humans, like, we're like sort of like a reflection or like a mimicry of like the divine feminine, and like
Mhm.
you know, as you know, some of us, you know, have the ability to create, you know, but like we're all kind of on a spectrum of like feeling these different energies within us, and like
Yes.
and we've basically just like ran with them a little bit too far and made gender norms for ourselves because we're just
Yeah.
kind of fucked up right now. We're just went in a weird direction as humans. But
Yeah. I think we
Yeah.
want to be specific. Like, I feel like human existence just, like, kept snowballing to be more specific about things. Because if you think, like, look back at, like the Egyptians and stuff, like, there was a lot more, not just the Egyptians, but, like, I guess, like, older religions and older ways of life, there's a lot more room for interpretation, I feel like. Whereas if now we're very specific. And that's another thing that, like, you know, religions are a lot more specific now, too. Yeah, it's just, we want to be more specific now, which is stupid.
like specific in like a technological way, or like
I think in just, like, existing, like I guess, like, with the evolution of technology, it's to have, like, these, you know, like, Siri is trying to make your life easier, right?
Mhm.
It makes it more shortcutted so that you don't have to do that work. So, like, I think we also kind of do that socially. Like, oh, I don't want to stop and think about all these grand concepts to gender, so I'm just going to have two of them. You know?
Yeah, it's like like a shortcut or making everything easier, so easy that we're not even like trying anymore.
Yeah, there's no room for that imagination or interpretation anymore. It's trying to make things, like, more into groups, you know? Like, group it all together so that we can understand it and we can control it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
ultimately just sort of make everything perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. To achieve perfection.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah. Good luck with that.
Just to make everybody happy all at once.
Yeah, and it's like you're not supposed to be happy all the time. Fucking idiots. Sorry, that don't put that part in.
No, we're gonna put it in.
Okay.
No, dude, it's like if there's a part in here where it's like, all right, this is like a really good part, and you're saying some important stuff.
Mhm.
You know, but it's like a swear word, or it's talking about something like kind of like harsh or like hard to hear. Like, I think for me, I don't give a fuck about those pussies in the audience. Like,
Cool.
I think they
Cool.
need, if it's something that's important to us, then like it's
Yeah.
righteous to have people hear it. You know. 'Cause
Yeah, that's true.
It will take people by. You know, it might
surprise.
surprise someone to hear that, but it's like, it's for a reason, and like,
Yeah.
that's what's the most honest to me. I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't just want to like cut out a part of something really important you said because like someone's gonna like
Be
feel a little
offended.
weird about it.
Yeah, they should feel a little weird. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Now, I've never been interviewed before, so this is pretty cool.
I've never interviewed people before.
It is pretty cool.
I was just like, I'm just gonna interview some people that I feel comfortable talking to.
Yeah.
And that I know I can have a nice long conversation with.
Cool.
And that you know, I feel like you've got good perspectives, and like Ella's got good perspectives, Ava's got good perspectives, and like
Cool.
yeah, we're all cool.
Cool.
We're all like creative ladies who have like really important thoughts on like I feel like on these subjects. So
Yeah, dude.
thought it would just be kind of a little powwow for us.
I'm excited to see your other friends too.
Yeah, we should totally just like all hang out, or you
Yeah.
can come to class when I presented it.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be fun.
People might come and talk to you.
That's alright.
People
That's
would,
alright.
People might
I'll
look
just-
at you a little bit.
I might bark at him. That'll scare him away. But yeah, thank you for thank you for
Choker, like.
oh, I will. Get away from me. But yeah, thank you for wanting to interview me, I guess. It made me feel special. So, and this definitely helped me feel more confident leaving Scatter if it has to come to it.